One subject that Nate Oats, even down in Gainesville, gets asked about is Charles Bediako being back. And this is why I continue to say this is it's not only just a target, it's a cross that Alabama's bearing, sort of changing the landscape of how they do things in college athletics. Now there's a guy named Amari Bailey who actually played in games with the Charlotte Hornets. And he has referenced, his legal team has referenced Bediako now, and he's trying to come back to college basketball. Your thoughts on that in a second, but Nate Oats gets asked about that and about whether the Bediako case and others are starting to maybe cross a line when it comes to eligibility.
There's a player that's played 10 games in the NBA now that's trying to get eligibility. Are you concerned about the slippery slope that could lead to?
I think everybody should probably be concerned with that, but they need to draw a line, and I think Charles people thought that the line shouldn't have been drawn on that's going to favor all the internationals and not, allow the Americans to be able to make the money, and I think that's kind of where they thought the line should be drawn somewhere else, but it's, some people would argue that Charles has a better case to be eligible than some other guys playing in college basketball right now based on what it is. So I go way back when. I'm not sure that I was necessarily pro any professionals playing, but that's where we've gone down. So if you're going to go down and your former player, wants to get eligible and judge rules him eligible, we're going to play him. So, yeah, I think we all should be concerned with it, and they need to come up with a set of rules that everybody agrees on and can follow, and judges, the U.S. court system needs to probably agree on them too, otherwise they're going to get taken to court.
All I would say is, and I have had this stance all along, and this has got nothing, Bediako's the reason we talk about it, but I would like to think I've got this stance whether it involved Bediako or not, because when the kid at Baylor that doesn't really do anything for them came in, I had this same stance then. If you're going to allow pros to play, I just don't know legally how you draw the line. These pros can, these pros can't. And I get what everybody said. Look, the NCAA coaches, athletics directors, school presidents, conference commissioners, the majority of those agreed that we're going to let the European pros play but not the American. That's fine, but be ready that when it goes to a court could say, yeah, you can't draw the line right there. Not legally, you can't draw the line right there, and that's what's happened here.
I sent it to you guys. I don't think we have the cut, but Bruce Pearl on Outkick.
Very interesting sound.
Yeah. I as I watched it and sent it to you guys so we could talk about it, Bruce Pearl believes, and correct me if I'm wrong, he thinks that the NCAA should look at Alabama not being eligible.
Yep.
For the NCAA tournament.
Well, look, if the NCAA wants to make any kind of stand, then he didn't take this angle because everybody is talking about there is no teeth when it comes to the NCAA. The one stand they could possibly make is this Alabama team is not eligible.
It goes directly against one of the things that is spelled out in the TRO. So if the NCAA does that, they got to buckle up and get ready for that to get immediately challenged. Like if they were to announce, we're not going to consider Alabama, the first thing Alabama does is go to a court of law and say, now, wait a minute. This TRO says in point, I think it's point number 3, that the NCAA cannot penalize player, coach, team, institution for any games that Bediako plays. So if that's in a TRO, how can the NCAA say we can't go? And then it would be up to a judge to say, you know what, that's right. And I'm sure the NCAA would have their judge. This would get very, very messy very quickly. Alabama wouldn't wait on this. This would be immediate.
Bruce brought up, his suspension, and the way he sold it was, and again, you saw the soundbite.
Yep.
Help me if I'm misrepresenting this. He was like, basically, I had a couple of guys over and fed them some food and lied about it, and I got kicked out of the game, give him a $10 million contract.
Yeah, I think it was a $12 million contract. I had a couple of guys over. I shouldn't have done it, but that was the rule, and, I had to live with that.
But he did say,
And by the way, he did set this up because I think this is kind of important because immediately people are going to gravitate to the Auburn coach talking about Alabama. He said it off the jump. He was like, I know people are going to take this the wrong way, or, I'm paraphrasing here, because I'm the former Auburn coach and this is Alabama, but I would be saying this about any of these situations.
Yeah, he was with Dan Dockich, and he pointed out, Dan, you can't comment on Purdue. Anything you say about Purdue is going to be viewed from
Which is
Indiana.
true.
Yeah. But Bruce did even say in that, could I go to a judge and sue to get my job back? Which I thought was interesting. He said, I paid a price for penalties. I didn't go to a judge.
I bet he went to an attorney.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
I don't think he could have gone to a judge, and gotten his job back in that situation. I really don't think that's the way that would have worked. I don't think.
Well, I think he could have filed an injunction to keep coaching.
I don't know if he could have gotten that though.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to. Yeah, I mean, again, it would have to be a judge that looked at it and said somehow his rights were violated, right? And I mean,
This should tell you something's wrong with college athletics right now, though. When guys, like you mentioned, Amari Bailey, who's trying to go back, he was selected in the second round in the 2022 draft, and he got a contract for more than $500,000, and now he wants to go back because you're making more money in college basketball than you can make in the G League or some of these other professional leagues.
Yeah. And the difference is that, the difference between Njai, who was drafted in the first round, the Baylor player,
He was only 10 picks after NJ.
he never signed a NBA contract apparently, which I don't understand how that's possible. He's the 31st pick, but Bediako had a two-way contract, never played in a game
right?
in the NBA, never once played in an NBA game. Now we got a guy who's saying, wait, I should be eligible. I actually played in 10 NBA games. That was with Charlotte Hornets. You can debate whether that's an NBA team or not. But he actually played in 10 games. Bruce's comments come on a week where we're going to get Alabama and Auburn on Saturday. And if you watch the broadcast yesterday, they brought up all the Todd Golden on the Gator Talk show and Nate saying 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds in the lane. And then they brought all that up during the broadcast. It would not surprise me if Bruce's outkick soundbite ends up making it into the broadcast this weekend, or at least to the pregame. By the way, it's Tyler, do you have that? I think it'll be cut 11. See if you have cut 11. I want people to hear it.
Should have it in just a second.
Okay, well, just real quick while we wait on cut 11. So this is going to be Bruce talking to Dan Dockich. Is that what we're doing here? Is that what you're talking about? Okay. Did we see, because one thing that jumps out at me yesterday, I assume you guys think the difference between Condon Chinaloo and Bediako is an actual NBA player versus a G League player. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Because there was a difference there, right?
Hawk, in skill, not in what their
Chinaloo.
past.
Not their past. I'm talking like, I guess I should have said Condon and Chinaloo will be in the NBA.
Yeah,
you think both?
and Houck, all three of those
Houck,
guys,
yeah.
for sure.
And Bediako obviously was not good enough to make it in the NBA. I think that was pretty well established. He was going to be a G Leaguer for life, maybe goes up and sits a bench for a 10-day contract with an injury or something. But I guess the point I was making is you saw NBA talent yesterday versus almost NBA talent. And there was a pretty stark difference, wasn't there? I mean, don't you think?
I mean, yeah.
There was. I mean, it wasn't, there are other things going on. There's a wave of guys running past Bediako. I mean, they had multiple big guys down low that could fly up and down the court.
Yeah, but all of them NBA talent is my point. And Bediako obviously is not NBA talent. There's no shot at him. It's just that's been proven. He's not going to play in the NBA.
He was having to battle, a lot of different. He don't have to worry about one guy if he was playing in the NBA, because there would be other NBA talent around him to guard the other guys. He was having to swap flies yesterday against Florida, but they really got after him in that contest.
Yeah,
it was. I just thought it was interesting that this all happens in a week that we're also going to get an Alabama-Auburn game on Saturday down at Neville Arena. It's a storyline that'll end up being part of that backdrop when those two teams meet again.
I will say, if there is any, now Auburn's got an advantage of having the midweek bye. I guess that's what you would want coming off a loss at Tennessee. I guess you would want the midweek bye. Alabama's got to play another game against Texas A&M, which obviously is going to be a really difficult game. That's the team that leads the SEC right now. I would say if there is an advantage for Alabama, the first road game not being at Auburn, probably no. You didn't probably want it at Florida. But your first road game in this situation at Auburn probably would not have been what Nate Oats would have wanted. So at least it's not your first trip on the road. You know what to expect.
Well, you heard the G League dropout that we played earlier.
It's going to probably get worse than that at Auburn.
It will get worse than that at Neville. Now, if you're Alabama, you hope it continues all year, because that means at least he's relevant.
Yeah.
If the Bediako chants go away, then that's when it's become a big problem.
Alabama has a better chance to walk away from Neville with a win than they did the O-Dome.
Yeah, I think everybody, and I know Forrester was on this on the front end a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, this is by far the best team in the SEC, the Florida Gators.
From the Dan Dockich, Don't At Me is the name of the show on Outkick. Here's Bruce Pearl talking to Dan about Charles Bediako being allowed to play.
Should they even consider banning Alabama from the tournament for playing this kid?
Well, I think they should consider it. I think it's something that should be talked about. And look, Dan, as you know, like anything that you would say about that would be at all critical, it doesn't matter how much you love Matt Painter, or it doesn't matter how much I respect Nate Oats. I'm the Auburn coach, so what I'm saying about Alabama must be something personal, and let's just take that right off the table. This has nothing to do with Auburn and Alabama's rivalry, okay? Well, here's what I don't like, all right? I lost my job, okay, because I had some kids over the house that had committed to me as juniors, and I had them over the house, and I shouldn't have, and I fed them, and I didn't tell the truth about it. I lost an $11 million contract, and I almost got knocked out of coaching. Now, if I'd have gone to court, do you think that the courts would have said, geez, you've got this whole career, you've done all this. That's a big penalty. I'm not so sure I couldn't get an injunction and win that. Okay, but I broke the rules. This is what the rules were. I made a mistake. It cost me. All right. And okay, so the NCAA, Alabama went and said, hey, we want to get Bediako eligible. We think there's some argument about the fact that he's being treated differently as an American that played professionally versus European kids. It's a good argument to have. But the NCAA said no. They said, no, he's not eligible. You guys are part of the SEC. You're part of the NCAA. You guys choose to be here. Therefore, you choose to play by our rules. And so when we don't like the ruling, what do? We go to court and get an injunction.
If you want to make that an apples to apples, Lance, I think the way to make it an apples to apples comparison would be if other guys that had gotten in trouble by the NCAA and lost their job, the NCAA would have said, well, you can have your job back, but not Bruce. To me, that makes it more apples to apples. And then maybe Bruce could go to an attorney, go to a judge and say, now, wait 1 minute. How do these guys do
right.
I don't get to?
I like Bruce a lot. I mean, I disagree with – I don't think he's being transparent. Like, if he could have gotten his job back with a court injunction, he would have gotten his job back. Yeah. I mean, there is no way that he didn't have representation trying to figure out every avenue of keeping that $11 million contract.
That's right, yeah. Now, could he have gotten the show cause lifted? Maybe. I mean, he did sit through a show cause, most of it, before Auburn hired him back. I mean, because that's what Jeremy Pruitt has tried to do. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt's an excellent example. I mean, look at Jeremy Pruitt. He's been in the coaching. My gosh, he was an assistant coach at Plainview High School while he's sitting out a show cause. And, just recently got back in it as an analyst at Jacksonville State. So, I mean, those guys, and Jeremy Pruitt filed a big lawsuit against the University of Tennessee and the NCAA, or I guess against really the NCAA to try to do that.
It'll be interesting to see how both Nate Oats and Stephen Pearl handle the lead up to this game. Obviously, Todd Golden chose to be fiery and throw some shots pre-game at Nate, and Nate, answered back, trying to work the officials, I think, with the 6, the 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds, and then Golden, his team backed it up. It'll be interesting to see how
he knew. He knew. He did. He knew they matched up well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Stephen plays this with Bediako and Alabama coming to town, because you also want to motivate your guys too. And I thought Golden did a good job of using this as motivation for Alabama coming to town. There's a lot to get motivated about in the Auburn-Alabama game. When they play each other. We'll see if this becomes another fiery talking point this week.
And how do you feel? Like, I think Alabama's going to get better. I do. Like, I don't know if they're ever going to be in the Florida realm, but I do think Bama with Bediako will get better. So I don't think there's going to be a point where Nate is regretting this. Just my opinion.
So you don't think right now we're not at that point right now?
The Tennessee loss was weird, but Tennessee is peaking right now a little bit. I mean,
and you were down 2 players for that one. I think that one was a little more understandable.
Yeah, and look, and Florida is by far the best team, and you were on the road there. Now, look, you got to show something this week.
Well,
Texas A&M on Wednesday, first place Texas A&M 7-1, but they are not physically imposing on the inside like Florida, or Tennessee.
They don't play a style that gives Alabama normally trouble.
But how many minutes is Bediako going to be able to log? Like, is he in that kind of game shape?
But this isn't a Bediako game.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
this is not. They don't need Bediako to have a chance to beat Texas A&M.
Right.
No, you go small against them,
Yeah.
right? Small and fast and ball handlers.
They need Bediako to have a chance to beat Auburn.
But-
they needed him against Florida. They needed him against Tennessee. They'll need him if they make it to the tournament and face Arizona again, or if they face Michigan. You can start naming teams they'll need him against. Duke.
I would say this: Alabama a much more talented roster than Texas A&M. But the way you can kind of, your advantage really is your size, though. I mean, we're talking about the smallest team right now in Division I.
Oh, that's right. I see
It's
what you're
Texas
saying, yeah.
A&M. So, like, do we figure something out where Sherrell and Bediako can be factors on both ends of the court?
I see what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is you got to get it across midcourt against them. And how much do those guys help you get it across? I mean, they can dribble. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
They can
that's
catch
what
and throw. Yeah.
I'm just saying A&M, they're going to press you from the jump. And
Well, Taylor Boboan is one of those guys that, has got handle, but, played 2 minutes. We
but
talked
he's-
about whose minutes are going to be taken away with Bediako coming in. I
there's
think
your
that's been
answer.
answered,
Yeah.
Boy, you got Texas A&M and Buckyball coming off a game where you had 13 steals and 18 turnovers.
That's scary.
Yeah.